Wire podcast. I am your host, Brian from Earth 16, as and I have Patrick Murphy as my guest for the writer and creator of Echoes of the Triumphant, which is now on Kickstarter and is pretty much on a roll already. How's it going, Patrick?
Going pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, I've been doing really well, my friend. Doing really well. Man, it looks like wow, looks like it's already off to a good start, and it's almost reaching its goal as well.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, I got a couple backers, and um, yeah, fingers crossed. Everything goes well.
I'm sure it pretty. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm confident it'll go well. I'm looking at the stuff right now. Like it's very close to its goal.
yeah, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, and then like let's see. Yeah, it's getting there, man. So it's off to a really cool start, and hopefully, if for those of you who are listening, check out the link at the Kickstarter. I think it's here, Kickstarter/project/ Patrick Murphy Echoes of the Triumphant 031. I'll post it on my Twitter too, just so that way everyone can take a look.
Thank you very much.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. It's my pleasure, and that's what we do here. All comics are celebrated, especially the Kickstarters. So, can you tell us what Echoes of the Triumphant is about?
Sure. So it's like a worst case scenario world if superhumans existed. So it's not like the boys where there's like extremely like egotistical superheroes. Um, it's a world where like there are superhumans. They're called tweaks, and basically like crooked politicians, businessmen, and like military officials just sort of like take advantage of them and sort of suppress them and exploit them for like profit and their own personal needs. So yeah, there's a lot of exploitation. There's a lot of just rivalry in the story that I'm setting up, and the main character, Adrian Avery, is just caught in the middle of everything, and he has to decide whether or not he wants to, save the city.
It's really funny how you brought that up, like especially with politics and everything that's going on. I mean, especially with Adrian Avery. I read the comic, actually the zero issues 0 and 1, and just how like he's like the center at it all. It hits him like it just hits him like a brick wall. And it reminds me a lot of Juliana Crane from Man the High Castle. Have you seen that show from Amazon?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's a really interesting show. It's actually based on the book by Philip K. Dick, and it takes place in an alternate reality where the Nazis won World War II, and obviously,
Oh, okay.
pretty much almost the entire world is ruled by these Nazi assholes. Pardon,
Yeah,
excuse my language, though, but I don't like
yeah, yeah,
Nazis. But the Nazis are running the world along with the Japanese actually. So the Nazis have taken over the eastern part of the United States, whereas the Japanese have taken over the west coast of the United States, except with the Rocky Mountains and all that. But anyway, in the center of that story is this young woman named Juliana Crane, and she becomes this catalyst of everything that just happens. Like in the story, her story starts off with her sister, who's secretly part of the resistance, and she gets killed by the
Oh, okay.
Japanese when she's on the run. So this prompts her to actually start journeying away from her home city of San Francisco. And she has a really interesting background because her father was like a war veteran in the U.S. Army, and I think he died in the war, and she ended up in a bus accident, but somehow miraculously recovered with the use of Aikido. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, and she's just at the center of it all, and she's somehow able to travel into the multiverse, and she's able to like see different alternate realities where the Allies did win. And
Yeah,
it just that's what this story Echoes of the Triumphant kind of reminds you of. Adrian's kind of like the Juliana Crane of the story. Like he's just thrust into the middle of all that's happening with the
yeah.
tweaks, with everything else going on in the world.
It's funny how you kind of brought that up. Like, World War II is a really interesting point in time for me.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
like I don't know why, but like in Germany, like after World War II or after the First World War, like Germans were really pissed off people, right?
Mm-hmm.
They lost their friends in the war. Um, like they went through like wicked hyperinflation, and their economy was just doing terrible.
Oh yeah, it
And
tanked.
yeah, oh yeah, and everybody was just really pissed off, and everybody just wanted to take their anger out on something. And that's how like Hitler came to power. Like he just rose up the ranks, and he just basically said to everybody who was pissed off, all right, everybody, like it's okay to take your anger out on like these people. And that's like a really dangerous aspect about like society, I guess, because like there's going to be times where people are really pissed off, and if you have a leader who says, you know what, everybody go over to that thing and attack that, like people will do it.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're definitely going to listen. I mean, no question about it. Like they're going
Yeah,
to go with the guy who's most charismatic,
yeah,
or someone who's seemingly just tooting the horn. I mean, look what happened in the Cap, for instance. What happened in
yeah,
the U.S. Capitol? That was scary,
yeah,
and it's just how people. It's just, I guess, it's just human nature. When people find like someone who's really charismatic, they're going to follow them. There's something about
yeah.
them that they're going to follow. And I feel like we see that with one of the characters in Echoes of the Triumphant. I think the character's name is, I forgot his name though, but he was like the leader of this movement of tweaks.
Right.
He's like,
So yeah. So yeah, in the first issue, Adrian has a brother, and his brother was a part of this like tweak rebellion called the Pride. And yeah, so he used to be a part of that. He's ran away from it because um, he thought they were like getting pretty extreme and pretty, ridiculous and just dangerous. And so he comes back to like Adrian's world to sort of tell him about that, and he really sort of gets the plot going in that story.
yeah, and it's really funny how Adrian just like gets thrust into all that, and that he has to
Yeah,
like pick up the pieces, and
yeah,
it seems that he's for me, I feel like Adrian has a lot to kind of straighten out. Like I feel like he has a kind of a lot to come to grips with, especially with the fact that he was an MMA fighter, and during the night of the explosion, kind of reminds me of the particle accelerator exploding in Central
yeah,
City in the Flash.
yeah,
Like his life just changes completely. In a sense, he kind of changed too, along with the tweaks or the people who became the tweaks. I feel, and also having a job that he does not like, I mean,
yeah,
and like an kind of an asshole boss, and then having to deal with his brother's mess. It's like, oh, dude. And then like his father too, who's like, kind of ill right now, and they don't know if he's gonna like fully recover.
yeah. Yeah, he's definitely just dealing with like a lot of baggage, and he um he he definitely has like a chip on his shoulder. Like I try to set him up as this character where like you don't necessarily agree with the way that he presents himself, but like you kind of know where he's coming from. Like he's dealing with like a lot of baggage right now, and um like the story is just about him just losing that sort of. He doesn't necessarily think of himself as a victim, but like he just sort of loses this mentality of like, oh, everything's just like so against me, like throughout this whole story. That's where I'm sort of taking him as a character.
It's sort of like it's almost like a woe is me kind of moment in a sense. I
Yeah,
feel like, I feel wronged. I feel robbed in a
yeah,
sense.
definitely.
And I have every reason to be upset, and yeah, so I feel like he's someone we all can relate to in a sense, because we've all in our life at some point, I feel we've all been cheated in some way, we've all been wronged, and we feel justified in how we act, even if people don't agree with us, even if people say like, what, that's not right though. But at the same time, it's like we can understand why people would feel justified to actually do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I can, yeah, Adrian is a totally relatable character in a sense, especially when lo and behold, you're one day you're on the top of the mountain, the next day it's like that can be taken away from you. That's another example too of that. It
Yeah,
says how you can just be, going on cloud nine, and then one day, all it takes is one bad day, and this goes,
exactly.
you know,
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of something else. Yeah. the Kickstarter has a couple of rewards. You know, everybody can get digital and print copies. If you want to be featured as like a tweak in issue
That'd be
number 3 and 4,
awesome.
there's a reward for that. So if you get that reward, and sort of like send the concept our way, we can definitely like incorporate that into the story. We have like a couple stretch goals. If we meet like 3K, we're definitely gonna show like more behind the scenes stuff. And if we reach 5K, everybody gets a poster. And if we reach 7K, everybody gets a Reverb Comics T-shirt. So yeah, so there's like a lot of cool perks.
That's really awesome. Like the yeah, so to be featured as a tweak, man. I wonder, like, if you were a tweak, for instance, like, what would you imagine your powers would be?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, in the story that I set up, like the last thing that you want to be is sort of is a tweak, because they're the people who are kind of like wronged in society.
That's true too. Kind of like the mutants in the X-Men.
Yeah, but like I feel Adrian's brother is kind of like a really interesting, like an interesting tweak, because he sort of he has the power to just sort of tap into anything that has an electrical current, really. So he's just like, I sort of think of him as like a slippery sort of like John Constantine-esque character, where like he doesn't um he's not like the alpha male where he just beats the guy up. He just
Right.
sort of thinks his way out of a situation. And yeah, that's what I'm going for with that character.
That's really yeah. I hope we see more of his brother too, because that obviously would be a really cool character to kind of keep an eye on, especially with how he's quick thinking. And I feel like he
Yeah,
probably would be. I almost feel like he would probably be like the brains almost, while Adrian's more like the brawn in a sense.
exactly.
Sort of like that dynamic in the show called Numbers, where there are these two brothers. One knew about mathematics, or whatever, and then the other was just a cop. Then he had to enlist his brother to help him solve out these crimes using math equations, which I thought was really, I thought that was really
Oh wow.
interesting.
Yeah, that's actually that's sort of how they caught this guy, the son of Sam. Have you ever heard of him?
Son of Sam? No, I don't think I have. Was he a famous criminal?
Well, like, yeah, he was this. Well, yeah, he was like, if you're a true crime fan, you know of him. Like, he was this like murderer in New York City, in
Wow.
the 80s. And the cops found him by, well, so this was the logic. So if you're like murdering somebody, and like he used to go to like a person's apartment and then do the deed, and then um he
Wow.
basically like make his getaway like with his car. So the logic was like, if you're murdering somebody, you wouldn't really care about like a parking ticket. You just care about like, sort of like covering your own tracks. So like
Right.
this one policeman, he just went through all these databases, and he just sort of said to himself, okay, which car had like a parking ticket in like this neighborhood during the night of the murder? And then that's how they caught the son of Sam.
Wow. That's wow. I'm
It
looking
was
him
actually
up
kind of
right
smart.
now.
Yeah.
Huh?
It was actually kind of smart.
Oh yeah, to find him like by his parking ticket and all that. Like,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, I'm looking him up right now too. This guy looks like he's a piece of work too.
Yeah.
Proclaimed
Like
as the
probably.
son of Sam and christened by the media as the 44 caliber killer due to a weapon he used. Dang,
Yeah.
sounds like a copycat.
Yeah. But yeah. Um. Yeah. That was kind of an interesting fact. But yeah. Yeah. Have you seen the? Oh, you've seen the Snyder Cut, right?
Oh, I've seen the Snyder Cut. It was awesome. I mean, I've seen it. Yeah, like it was all the rage, especially with the Daily Planet. A lot of us were just
Yeah.
talking about it, and I thought it was especially with Ezra Miller's Flash. I thought he stood out to me, and along with Cyborg Ray Fisher. I stand with Ray Fisher, by the way.
Yeah,
And yeah, I thought a lot of the arcs were more fleshed out than the actual previous Justice League, which to me was just, of course, it was utter crap. But
yeah,
Zack Snyder really hit it out of the park. But it's really sad how WB Warner Brothers is not going to make that canon when they should. They clearly should.
yeah, yeah,
And I think at this rate, I mean, if the fans are going to be saying that, hey, release this, instead of, the release the Snyder Cut fans, you know, I mean, Warner Bros. Almost has no choice at that in the matter. I mean, unless they can make as many other movies they like though, but that one, the Snyder Cut, really stood out. It really stands out. I mean, that
yeah.
movie's going to be timeless.
Yeah, I always wanted to root for like just not Zack Snyder because like that was like just an insane personal tragedy that he just went through, and like I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody. And
No,
the fact that he
no.
got fired um around the time of that tragedy was just terrible. I don't think that that should have happened. I think that like like people from Warner Brothers should have like reached out and supported him during that time and not just
Yeah,
fire the guy. But it's amazing. Like he's like the comeback kid, really.
he
And
really is, and it reminds me too that the grass, corporations. I mean, I have nothing against corporations though, but I feel like with entities like Warner Brothers, it's like you could never keep a fandom down. The
yeah,
fandom is eventually going to, the fandom eventually changes things. I mean, look what happened with the death of Jason Todd in
yeah,
the
that's
Batman
true.
comics. Like they voted unanimously to have him killed off, and all it took was a phone call.
Yeah,
And that's the power of fandom. And when Damian Wayne died, one of my favorite Robins, by the way, the fandom was really up. They were really all over social media and Twitter, like, hey, you better bring him back to life somehow. And lo and behold,
yeah,
he's brought back to life. And I think they're going to do the same with Alfred, just like they did the same with Wolverine.
yeah,
Because like the fandom, you can never shut the fandom up. I mean, try as you might. And I
hmm
think, it reminds me a whole lot too of what Todd McFarlane said one time about like how I think I talked to you about this too, about how he drew Spider-Man, right? And like the
yeah,
people in Marvel corporate were like, Todd, the fans are not going to buy that, the big eyes and the web, and he's just like, dude, I mean, this is the way I draw Spider-Man. I think the fans are going to love it, and sure enough, guess what? The fans love it, and right now if I walk into a Target, I see Spider-Man shirts, and there's a Spider-Man shirt with Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man with the big eyes and everything, just looking like this, you know,
yeah,
like just doing his little perch or his little lurking, whatever, looking really awesome. And it's like
yeah,
you see, it comes to show that nothing. I have again nothing against corporations necessarily, or it's just that sometimes the people on the top, I feel like, especially in companies like Warner Brothers, Marvel, the executives, I like to call them,
yeah. There's a disconnect.
they don't, yeah, there's a disconnect. They don't know
Yeah,
anything about creativity. They don't, it's foreign to them, and they think they know, but they don't. And
yeah,
it's like, that's why, at the time, Todd McFarlane, Silvestri, several other people, the Image 7 came and created Image Comics because they
yeah,
were tired of the BS. Like, this
yeah,
is, no, like, we want to make a company that, is creator owned, and we want a company for the creators by the creators. And I feel
yeah.
like Warner Brothers, they're, yeah, that's an example right there. Like, if Zack Snyder wanted to, I mean, he could probably just like give him the deuces and like make his own filming studio or something. I mean,
Yeah,
Mel Gibson did it.
yeah. I was also gonna say like I think that's that point you made it highlights like why Kevin Feige is so good at his job because like
He's
he
a creator.
knows, yeah, he knows exactly what the fandom wants. Like he knows which storylines like really resonate with the fans. And like just recently, for example, like everybody was like, well, I mean, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, everybody was like devastated that like the Daredevil series was canceled. And
Yeah,
then reports came out that like Charlie Cox returned to the set of like Spider-Man 3. And so, he listened to the fans and
Mm-hmm.
he managed to bring back Charlie Cox in a way, and he's just that's all he's doing. He's not like making like Christopher Nolan level films, but he's just listening to what the fans want, and he's just delivering it in just like in these different doses in a way. Um, yeah, even in like the WandaVision show, like he just somehow knew that like it would be like the coolest thing ever to have like Evan Peters like come back as Quicksilver because like like his Quicksilver like won everybody over in those X-Men Days of Future Past or in the X-Men movies. Like he was arguably like the best part in those like X-Men movies. And so to bring him back was like just a really really smart move on his part.
Wow. So Kevin Feige brought, did all that.
Yeah, I'm well, I mean, nobody's explicitly saying that like
Well, it was all
Charlie
him,
Cox,
but
yeah. Yeah, no nobody's like explicitly saying like Charlie Cox is on the set of Spider-Man 3. Like everybody wants to keep that under
under
wraps,
wraps.
but like I mean we pretty much know, right? But
Yeah,
yeah, so but yeah, that's why I think that like Marvel is just gonna do well for like a pretty long time
I
now because
agree.
yeah,
I
Kevin Feige
agree.
just he just knows what like people want.
And
And
it's the same thing with John Favreau too, but in Star Wars: The Mandalorian, that guy knows what he's doing. You
yeah,
know, whereas with Kathleen Kennedy, I mean, she to me, and like when she started to do all the whole stuff with the new trilogy and everything like that, I came to the conclusion that I'm sure she's a nice person. I'm sure she's a nice lady,
yeah,
and everything like that though. But I think honestly, she should be more. She should be handling the business side of things, like just running
yeah,
Lucasfilm. Like don't even touch the movies or the books or anything. Just let the creators do that. That's their job.
yeah,
It's like just run the business side of things, sign the paychecks or whatever, be cool, you know. But then then what happens is that she dips her hand into the whole the creative stuff, and then it becomes a whole clusterfuck, and
yeah,
it's just like for instance, like I think there was a rumor going around where they didn't really exactly know how to handle Rey Skywalker's origin. I mean, they thought that she was going to be a Kenobi or perhaps another
yeah,
Skywalker, but then she ends up ultimately being a Palpatine.
yeah,
And it's like, what?
yeah,
And a whole bunch of other stuff. And like with Finn, I spoke to one of my buddies about this in a Daily Planet, Brandon Rooney, and he was like saying that how he didn't like how they made Finn keep on yelling Ray, you know,
yeah,
and being just like being silly. And it's just like I thought they did John Boyega wrong in my opinion too, because I like John Boyega. I thought he was cool. They could have made him so much more cooler, and
yeah,
especially when they handed him that lightsaber. I thought, okay, that's really cool. Like he's wielding the lightsaber, but then ultimately to find out that he's not force sensitive, and it's just he's
yeah,
just like what the heck? Like they just made him into a joke.
yeah, yeah. I also do you think that's also but here's an interesting point, I guess. So some fans have argued this, like I think episode 7 won a lot of fans over, right? It wasn't the most perfect Star Wars movie, but like fans were pretty peckish for a new Star Wars movie, and if for the most part, I feel as if though it met the hype, right? And
Hmm.
then in episode 8, Ryan Johnson made his film, and he didn't really do anything that helped like advance the plot of like the trilogy, and he sort of did his own like weird thing where like Finn was at like this casino and like it
I
was
didn't get
just
that.
I didn't get it either. Yeah, but like you know I feel like there has to be like kind of a good relationship between like the producers and the directors because like I think Ryan Johnson in that case he had like way too much creative control and he sort of like he just sort of screwed up the trilogy in a way. Like I think that screwed up sort of the narrative in that trilogy. Like it was a good movie that he made, but it just wasn't like a good Star Wars trilogy movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was almost like I don't know. I feel like that in I feel like the Rise of Skywalker was a lot better than that. I felt like with the whole, I agree with Mark Hamill on this too. The guy who played Luke Skywalker, like
Yeah.
they made Luke pathetic,
Yeah.
into a bitter old man when he even said it himself too. He was like, "Shoot, like Luke Skywalker's supposed to be this hopeful dude. Like he's supposed to be the one who springs to action when stuff goes down."
Yeah.
But instead, they portrayed Luke as this bitter old man, like leave me alone. And I felt like it was sort of like a pseudo Dark Knight moment for Luke, like a Frank Miller Batman. Like I was hoping for that actually, like where he just comes out of retirement and just springs to action and is ready to kick ass once more. Like I
Yeah.
felt like they would have followed something like that, and it would have probably been a better film, in my opinion. Like a
And oh,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
like a badass Luke, just
Yeah.
plowing through First Order stormtroopers while wielding his green lightsaber and battle scarred and just like looking badass.
Yeah. I also think too that like I agree with that a lot. Like I just like I think it was like Ryan Johnson that kind of screwed things up for like episode 9, because like in episode 9 you're just like it feels like a race, you're just like going from one plot point to another plot point to another plot point to another plot point, just like really really quickly. And like I don't know, like half of me just doesn't really like blame JJ Abrams, but like
No.
the other half of me was just like, ah, man, maybe this could have been better, I don't know. But like yeah, I think that's kind of what like screwed things up a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I was also gonna say there's like another good example of like producers meddling with like creators. Like, do you ever watch the show Arrow?
Oh yeah, I used to watch Arrow here and
Yeah.
there though. I
So
mean, I watched the first two seasons.
yeah. So like in season 4, they were actually planning to do like a Suicide Squad storyline, but then the
That would have
big
been
produce.
good.
Yeah, it would have been it would have been fantastic. But then the producers from like the higher ups at Warner Brothers were like no, you can't do that because like we're doing like a Suicide Squad movie. And I guess they didn't want to they wanted to like maximize one source of revenue. So like they thought like, oh, if there's like Suicide Squad stuff happening on TV, like people wouldn't go see the movie. So they like the writers had, that's the explanation that I heard, which is kind of phony, but
That's a
whatever.
weird
Like,
explanation.
but yeah. But anyway, it ended up being scraps, the Suicide Squad plans on Arrow. And then season 4 was just like total crap. Like everybody hated it. And then I guess around like season 5, like I guess those producers just weren't involved because like that season was just like amazing. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but like basically like Oliver, he killed this dude's dad. And uh this guy was really pissed off at Oliver, so he was sort of just not right in the head. So like he went out of Starling City to like get training from Talia al Ghul. And like he just he had this plan to just like systematically, destroy Oliver Queen's life. So he just wanted to, you know, just tear his family apart, tear his relationships apart, kill all these people, get somebody to betray him. And he wanted to keep Oliver alive. And he was just basically like Oliver's biggest bully ever in this
Oh, I
whole
think I've
and it
seen
was
that. Yeah, that was crazy. Like he tried to psychologically break him, basically.
exactly. Yeah. And it was like, to me, like I thought that was like the best season ever. Yeah.
Was that season five? I think it was.
Yeah, season 5.
Yeah, I heard season five was good.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephen Amell. I mean, to me, he will always be the Green Arrow. I mean, he really did make that role. And at
Yeah.
first, the first two seasons, they were trying to go for a Batman angle, but then that didn't work. So they decided to just kind of make him more himself in a
Yeah.
way. And
And
I
it's
thought
it's
he hit it out of the park.
yeah. I find it kind of funny cuz like fans were just like, "Oh, why isn't he like more like why isn't he making jokes and stuff like that? Like why isn't he like being more lighthearted like his comic book counterpart?" But like to me, like that's kind of a weird statement to make because like if you read like the Mike Grell series on Green Arrow, it was like very very dark. It was like a very very dark take on Green Arrow. There was like his longtime girlfriend like Dina Lance, like she was like badly beaten one night, and like you know as a result of that she couldn't become pregnant with Oliver Queen's
Man,
kid. Yeah, and like there was just like it was just very gritty, very dark. Um, like there was even one arc where like it showed you kind of what it was like to like um grow up with a gang and like just get into like gang culture and stuff like that. There was one where like this extremist from like the IRA was planning to like kill a bunch of people, and I mean Oliver Queen himself was like a bad person in that run. Like he actually cheated on Dina Lance, and like the series ended with like the two of them breaking up. But like
man,
anyway, what I
sucks,
was
dude.
yeah. But anyway, like what I was the point that I'm trying to make is that like in that series like Oliver Queen, like he was shipwrecked on an island and he had to fight for his life and stuff like that. And anybody who had that sort of experience, like they wouldn't be like a soft and bubbly person.
It wouldn't be
They
jovial
would
at
like
all.
yeah, exactly. They'd be pretty guarded and pretty um, you know, I guess mean in a way and tough, and I feel like his character was pretty like justified in a way in that series.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good way of looking at it. I mean, yeah, that's true because like, if something traumatic happened to you, I mean, sure, I mean, one can argue someone would probably try the joke to like, make themselves look all jovial though, but if someone went through like some real trauma,
yeah,
I mean, there's really no way you can mask that. You can try to wear as many masks as you can though, but they ultimately will see that. And I think with Oliver Queen and Arrow, he was like a war veteran basically that came back
yeah,
from a battle, like a real
exactly.
battle, and
Yeah,
to have to tell his friends and his family and friends like what happened, that must have it was just like damn. Like they in Lian Yu too, like the name of the island, it actually is translated to, I think it's translated to suffering, I think in
Purgatory.
or purgatory in Chinese, yeah, or
Yeah,
Mandarin, I think it is.
yeah,
And it's just like damn, and he did went through purgatory, he went through the depths of hell to survive, and the things
yeah,
he had to do. It's like, yeah, how could that version of Oliver Queen, be the jovial guy like his counterpart? I mean, I'm pretty sure his counterpart went through some stuff too, though, but like not like what the Stephen ML Green Arrow went through. I mean,
that's
having
true.
to like, be forced to like become a soldier, kill some people. I mean, he probably was out scared. He was probably scared out of his wits half the time, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, and I feel like with Arrow too, and the Arrowverse has been really good about, telling stories about trauma and people battling mental health.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I like about it, also, and like also about diversity too is another thing I enjoyed about
yeah,
the Arrowverse. I mean, we see it a lot with Supergirl. We've also started to see it with Superman and Lois, which has actually become one of my favorite shows. With Jordan Kent being the one who's struggling with mental health and just making sense of who he is,
yeah,
and yeah, so that stuff is real. Like, whereas with the comic books, I
that's
mean,
very true.
comic books are real too, but I mean that right there is really real, and I felt like the Arrowverse has kind of helped the comics kind of start to embrace a little bit of that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else was I gonna say? I really think it's cool how like the Arrowverse they take chances on these characters that you wouldn't really get to see in the comics, like um, and they just flesh them out like a lot. So like Mr. Terrific for instance, like I felt like they did a really good job with him on the Arrow show. So like his
Oh yeah, Mr.
arc was like
Terrific.
yeah, yeah, he was struggling with the fact that he wasn't like a really like great fighter, but then he used his genius to like create T spheres, and so he used his greatest strength to like make up for his weakness, and that's what made him like really formidable. and just really different from like all the other characters and on Team Arrow. I guess I thought that was like really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Another favorite character of mine on Arrow was Wild Dog. Wild Dog was
yeah, I love
funny.
Wild Dog. Yeah,
Yeah, just always someone's putting a spit in his mouth, especially trying to flirt with Mia and like always getting turned down, and he's just like, you know.
yeah, yeah. He was
And,
pretty good.
and there was one time where like Oliver was talking about the list, like he started opening up to them about what he did in the past, along with Team Arrow, and Wild Dog just looks at him and is like, "What the hell's the list?" This is like that, like it's like,
Yeah,
and Oliver had to explain to him. It's like, oh man, I thought that was a little funny.
yeah, yeah. He's a really good character.
Yeah.
But I was also gonna ask you one more thing. Like, what do you think about the whole thing with Kate Kane? Like, with what's the actress's
Ruby
name?
Rose. I heard
Ruby
actually that
Rose.
she's
Yeah.
going to be recasted from with Wallace Day, who was in Krypton. Krypton was actually a really good show. I don't understand why they had to cancel after 2 seasons on Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
But like Wallace Day
Yeah.
is going to be cast as Batwoman.
I found that like I don't know. I found that whole thing like just crazy to me because like she like Ruby Rose was on that show and like you know she actually got into an accident on a stunt and she had to get surgery.
I
And
heard about that. Yeah,
it didn't look like she was having like a great experience there, so she left and then somebody else took over for her and um I just found that situation just really I've never seen that before. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I'd be like me personally, like I'd just be like I'd be like a toddler if like I was, in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like I'd be so happy if I was like a part of that. Because like she was a part of that and like that was like that was such an incredible thing with the
That
TV
looks like
character.
fun. It looked like fun. Yeah,
Yeah. And but yeah, I hope she's doing well. I've never seen that before. With somebody leaving the show and then saying that they'd always want to come back, but then somebody like recast them and like I don't know, it's kind of weird. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's. And I heard that I heard some other rumors where she was kind of battling some other personal stuff too.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Yeah, and she's had like she's went through a lot too, I feel, and I hope I hope she does well, I hope she does fine.
Yeah. I never even got the chance to like to watch Woman to be honest, but like
I haven't
it's
seen it a
just the
whole lot
stuff
either.
that's yeah, but it's just the stuff that's like happening outside of the show is like caught my attention more than like what's going on in the actual show, which is kind of funny.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I'll have to admit there's a lot of stuff going on around it. But especially yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and there's some rumors out there too. I don't know if they're necessarily true, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess take it with a grain of salt.
That's true. That's true. Have you been watching Falcon and Winter Soldier?
I haven't seen an episode yet, actually. I've
Oh,
been
okay.
looking to actually watch it, but I heard it was pretty good. I heard actually Falcon and Winter Soldier has gotten a lot of views on Disney Plus. I do have Disney Plus also.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I
pretty well done. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm
But yeah.
sorry.
No, no, it's okay. Yeah, I was just trying to think of what I was gonna say next. Oh yeah, they finally like announced that like Black Widow's gonna come out in the summer, which
Yeah,
is like finally,
finally. It was
Yeah,
supposed to come out last year.
that's true. It's kind of funny with Marvel because like if one movie gets delayed, then like all their other movies have to get pushed back because like
Yeah.
like basically like Marvel is just like it's like a really big like TV series except like every single episode's like a $200 million movie, you know.
Oh, that's
So
true. I
yeah, it's
mean,
kind of yeah, in a way, like the COVID-19 pandemic, like hit them the worst.
oh yeah, it totally did. And I think it really hit the comic book industry worse too because of all the diamond distributors and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I ordered. Matter of fact, I think last year I ordered the Berserker comic I have right here. This the Keanu Reeves comic, and
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I ordered it like around, I think it was like freaking, I want to say like September of last year or something like that, or it was around the summer, I think, when the news about it started coming out. I ordered it, and I didn't get it until like about a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it was just like, yeah, I didn't get it until a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, dang man, like that's how hard the industry was hit, and especially with the comic book shops closing too. That's another big one too. And I actually interviewed a comic book owner from Samurai Comics, the owner of Samurai Comics near where I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And yeah, they were saying that it's just for businesses. It's like yeah, it's like you got to adapt in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, I think
Oh yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's all right. I was just gonna say too. I think a lot of them have started to adapt. I think creators have adapted. Especially with technology right now. Because if it was COVID-19 back in the 1980s or 1990s, I mean, we would have been screwed. You know.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I was also gonna say like I sort of feel bad for bookstore owners because like
Yeah.
you know like at the beginning of COVID, I guess a lot of people had the mentality of like, oh well, it's just gonna be another month. Oh, it's just gonna be another month. Like the
Or the
vaccine is
sun's
around the
gonna
corner.
eradicate it or whatever.
Yeah. But then like it's over a year now, and
Yeah.
how long can you keep up that mentality of like, okay, it's just like a month or two, and I'll get through this. Like how long can you actually do that? Like I'm seeing like a lot of people getting vaccinated and stuff like that, and like it still looks like it's gonna take some time to get back to normal.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time, and like I even hear with the comic book conventions, that's another group of people I feel for the conventions, and I was really bummed when I couldn't go to Phoenix Fan Fusion, which I go to every single year. It's like a tradition for me,
Yeah,
and this is the second year that it was postponed, and
yeah,
they finally postponed it, and they're gonna actually reschedule it once again on January, I believe, the 16th of 2022, and I'm like, dang man. And it's just like, just imagine having to pay for your ticket, and then all of a sudden you find out that, you know, due to this disease that's a pain in the ass, you know, like it's your event's going to be postponed, and the people you were planning to see are not going to come either. And it's like there was a lot of people who are in those panels too that I wanted to see, but then it was just like
yeah,
and then meanwhile you have like these political rallies, and it's just like I don't know. It's just it just makes me shake my head sometimes, and it's just like, oh,
yeah. It's true. Like I was also gonna say like I in 2019 I landed tickets to the San Diego Comic Con, but then in 2020 that of course it got canceled, and then
yeah,
they made the announcement that it's gonna be canceled this year, but there's gonna be an
right.
event in November, and like you know, November might happen, it might not, but
It's up in the
you
air.
know,
It's like knock on wood almost.
exactly. So, um, yeah, it's been a long time since I've been at a Comic Con, that's for sure. And,
Yeah, and those
um,
tickets don't come cheap either. Like especially
no,
San Diego Comic Con. Like that's like the Super Bowl of like the comic conventions, next to New York. You know, next to Chicago. Like that's like the Mac. That's like the granddaddy of them all. And it's like to be told like it's like going even with WrestleMania. That was another one too.
yeah,
Like to just imagine you buying tickets, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, we're gonna cancel this, and it's just like shit, man.
yeah,
And
exactly.
it's like I paid all this, it's like I paid all this money, and not only the money though, but it's like I wanted to see so and so, but now I can't, and like they have to be confined into this small space where there's barely anybody, and it's like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I feel like it's just it's sort of weird at this point because like in the airline industry, for instance, like um, you know, people have to go onto the plane with masks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But and they can't like social distance. You have to sit beside a stranger. But then guess what happens? Like the stewardess comes by with like snacks and stuff like that, and then when everybody eats, everybody takes off their mask around the same time, and they
Yeah.
start to eat, and like you know it sort of defeats the purpose of it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it defeats the
Yeah.
purpose, and
So
it's
like
like, yeah.
I mean, it's like, what's the point of even having the mask on there if like you're just gonna take it off and just breathe on each other, accidentally elbow each other or whatever, and it's just like a weird thing.
Yeah, yeah, especially when like this, especially in a plane. Like, how are you gonna social distance in a plane? Like, it's like
You
a
can't.
canister, a
Yeah.
giant metal canister of people.
Yeah.
And say if someone steps on someone's foot, especially then like a fight ensures, or ensues,
Yeah.
and it's just like, hmm.
Yeah.
Or like being in the like it's like being in a train or a bus, like that can happen too, or someone
That's
goes,
true.
and it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like even in the restaurants too, you see people just, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
I've like and in the restaurants I've been to, like, they're not really like, I haven't been in a restaurant where like they actually got the plexiglass, you know, and everybody's it's just a weird thing where like everybody's just trying their best to avoid infecting each other, but it's just not really making any difference. And like, I don't know. I think the only thing that's making a difference is just this like working from home. To be honest,
Oh yeah,
I've been
working
working
from
from home
home,
for the
definitely.
past year, and
And
like
dude,
that's
I love working from home.
yeah. It's gonna be hard to get people back to work, but
Yeah, I mean, and I think honestly, like I think that was like a long time coming in a sense, because if people are starting to work from home and all that, like, and especially when things go back to normal, it's gonna get companies to question, like, why have them work here when they can do just as good at home?
yeah, like why rent out the space when they can just you know
Yeah,
take the laptop and do whatever. Yeah,
exactly. Like, you can run a whole company on a cell phone basically
that's true.
nowadays. It's amazing. I mean, yeah, you'll probably still need your people though, but then that's it. It's like what Negan in The Walking Dead said: people are a resource. It's just like you don't really need a building or a brick and mortar, to prove that, yeah, I have this. I mean, it'd be nice, but I think nowadays people are starting to figure out that, they don't need anything like established. I mean, look at Bitcoin for instance. That's another example.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I was also gonna ask you one more thing. Did you ever have like, with this whole pandemic, did you ever have a friend that just like traveled throughout all this?
I know several people who've like a pastor of mine, actually traveled during this time, and I'm like, dude, you traveled? I
Yeah,
was like, bro,
yeah.
like my pastor's a brave dude, and it's just like you're braver than I thought, man. Like I wouldn't even think about traveling in the pandemic.
It's so odd because like, you just see like a politician saying, okay, don't do any non-essential traveling, and then I'd
Right?
see my friend, and then they
And
take
they're
a
doing
vacation out
it.
in Mexico, and it's like it should be there for people who like say like their relative died in another country. It should be there for like people like that. It shouldn't be there for like people who want to go on vacation.
Exactly. And then sometimes the politicians make an excuse saying that, oh, I had to do it, like I had to, visit a relative,
Yeah,
or, when in fact it's
yeah,
like, you're BSing, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Also, I was gonna say like in Canada, for instance, there's this one lady. She went to Europe to attend her father's funeral, and so she comes back to Canada and she has to isolate at a hotel. And so guess how much the hotel charged her for one night stay?
How much?
It's $3,000.
$3,000, dude.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Guess what the fine is for like not self isolating at a hotel?
It's probably double that.
No, that's the thing. Like it's $800.
$800? That doesn't make any sense.
And that's the thing. Like it doesn't make any sense at all. So like if you
Yeah,
go on a trip and travel, Like it's better to pay the fine than to actually just stay at the hotel where they're just going to extort you. Like it doesn't make any sense at all.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like the stories coming out of this are just going to be like ludicrous.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure someone is going to make a comic book about this in the future and just tell, how it was like. I mean, that this is the story we're going to tell our grandchildren. Like, yeah, this is what happened and all the crazy stuff that went along with it.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me a lot of Echoes of the Triumphant, going back to that with how things just start to change in a snap. Like when the tweaks, started to there's a prevalent of tweaks, people losing jobs and then the tweaks getting jobs and all that. And like some people using the tweaks for labor or using it to get an opportunity, like that's a lot like what's going on right now. There's some people who are, unfortunately going through unemployment, because or losing their homes
Yeah.
because of this pandemic. And then there's some people who are using this as an opportunity in a sense, and in some ways good, some ways bad.
Yeah.
And it's just it's almost like it's kind of, I think it's kind of teaching us that we have a choice. We always have a choice to do good or bad. And I feel like that's where Adrian's going to be. Adrian's kind of positioned in the story. Like he's going to have a choice to either do good or bad.
Yeah.
And same with his brother, I bet too,
Yeah.
and all the other tweaks.
Yeah, that's definitely where the story's going. Yeah, so he's more like um at the beginning of the story, like he's got that chip on his shoulder, and he really just wants to like make himself better off in a way, and so he's really just you know focused on just getting paid more and just sort of like increasing his status. But then yeah, the whole story is about him just like realizing that like chasing that thing, it's just like it's not the best thing to do. You don't want to miss out on relationships and stuff like that to
Nah, the stuff that really matters. And
yeah,
I think that's what this
exactly.
pandemic's teaching us too, and all that.
Yeah.
So we're about 5 minutes into the interview, so we got 5 minutes left. So any final thoughts?
I was gonna say this. So I owed a lot of thanks to a gentleman by the name of Dominic Bercier. He runs Mirror Comics in Ottawa, Ontario. I highly recommend that people check out mirrorcomics.com. He's got a lot of great graphic novels. He's got the Signos Saga. He's got Mission Arizona. He's got the Bird Caller. He's got the Ghost King. He's basically been doing this for like 20 years, and he's got like a lot of cool material out there, and yeah, I highly recommend that everybody checks out his work because he's been like a huge help to me. Like whenever I had a question, he was just always there to answer it, and yeah, he's just a super chill dude. And yeah, thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Well, it's my pleasure. And where can we follow you on social media?
Yes, so if you can follow me on at Reverb Comics and Instagram, and I have a Reverb Comics page on Facebook, and yeah, like we said, the Kickstarter is up and running. If you Google search Echoes of the Triumphant #1, you should be able to find it. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
You can definitely check out the. I actually posted it on my personal Twitter at Brian of Earth 16. I'm also going to post it on Earth 16 Comics Wire podcast, so that way all constant listeners and viewers can check out this Kickstarter. So yeah, you can definitely follow me on Twitter at Brian of Earth 16, and also on the podcast's Twitter at Earth 16 at Earth 16 podcast. You can also follow me on Instagram at Brian of Earth 16, and the podcast's Instagram on Earth 16 Comics. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. And thank you all for listening and viewing. And as I always say, stay ever so awesome. This is Brian at Earth 16 and Patrick Murphy signing out.